No.
Bottom of his feet are absolutely rank, man. And they look like the pistachios.
Char on the cauliflower from the rice thing. And I don't want a chicken that everyone's been looking at. Do you know what I mean?
It's just reminded me. This is such a useful podcast.
Yeah.
I need to buy olive oil.
Welcome to the Off Menu podcast, taking the marzipan of conversation, crafting into the imitation fruits of humour, and presenting in a wonderful box with some tissue paper around it. Marzipan fruits. Imagine that.
That is a gamble. My name is James Acaster. Together, we own a dream restaurant, and every single week we invite a guest, ask them their favourite ever starter, main course, dessert, side dish, and drink, not in that order. And this week, our guest is
Laura Smyth. Laura Smyth, a wonderful comedian, James.
Fantastic comic, so funny. Laura and I do Glastonbury every year together.
Yes.
It's a fallow year this year, so we won't be doing Glastonbury. So therefore, Laura's on the podcast.
Yes.
So I get my annual dose of Laura Smyth.
James can't afford to let his friendships go fallow,
Yes.
along with the Glastonbury schedule.
That's right. I'm very excited that Laura's coming on.
You miss Glastonbury, don't you? You put a long drop in your garden because you miss it so much.
Yeah, I do. And do a big poo in there. And then I go and I sit in, well, I get my phone and I play my favourite bands, but I make sure that I put my phone as far away from me as possible,
Yes.
like several blocks away.
Yeah.
And then I watch from really far back in my garden.
Yes.
I don't really have a garden, but
Yeah.
it's fun to actually fantasize about having a long drop in my garden, actually. I feel quite fancy now.
Laura is fantastic, and she's on tour with her show Born Aggie. That's in the autumn, and she's doing the Eventum Apollo, James. Well worth a visit.
Get this though, right? We like Laura, but we will kick her out the dream restaurant if she picks the secret ingredient, ingredient we deem to be unacceptable. And this week, get this, the secret ingredient is
Eggy bread.
bread.
Born Aggie.
Eggy bread.
Born Eggy.
So eggy sounds like Aggie, so we've done eggy bread.
Eggy bread.
Pretty good.
Enjoy.
I wonder if you're saying.
Enjoy this episode. It's the Off Menu menu of Laura Smyth. Welcome, Laura, to the Dream Restaurant.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome, Laura Smyth, to the Dream Restaurant. We've been expecting you for some time.
Yeah, indeed. Thanks for having me.
Most
Thank you so
welcome,
much.
of course.
Thanks for coming. It's very exciting to have you here.
Thank you.
I feel like you and I only really see each other at Glastonbury each year.
We do.
This is great.
I am a huge fan of your comedy, but I have to say, when you and Mr. Nish Kumar are DJing, it's a next level fandom.
Thank you.
It might be something to do with my altered state at Glastonbury.
Yeah, sure.
But you've never quite noticed me, but I'm usually at the front where I go, guys, you know me. As you miss, as you mix Missy Elliott and Natalie and Imbruglia, and I can still have flashbacks of your mixes. I love it. I love it. And I said to Nish, I said, it's like when the geeks in the common room get the aux cord. He went, no, it's not like that. It is that.
Yeah.
I love seeing these guys DJ. It's not enough to make me go to Glastonbury. But
Why?
No.
This guy hates it. This
Not
guy.
interested.
Download, girlie.
Download's great. It's the right size. It's the right bands.
It's the right paving.
Yeah,
It's the right-
exactly. I'm just not interested. Glastonbury's too big, and I'm not interested in any of the bands, I'd say. Maybe 3, but that's not enough for a weekend, is it? And I don't want to get into an altered state, Laura.
You don't want to get into an altered state, but there's something else about Glastonbury when you play it as a comedian. You could quite happily have your whole weekend just tucked up behind with Charlotte the Booker and her crew of hippie legends making you tea, and there's that vibe of like, I suppose I better go and watch Rod Stewart then. I'm going to town. I sometimes think if my whole Glastonbury was just talking nonsense with other comedians and watching Basil Brush and Acaster and Kumar DJing,
That's true.
I'd go home happy.
Yeah, Basil Brush sang Purple Rain last year. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
Bet you'd have liked to have seen that.
Don't get that to download, my friends.
Yeah.
I'm going to go now.
There you go. My work here is done. I'm all right. I'll just have a water.
It is funny watching these two DJ because James is so focused on the music. He's got his head down looking at the laptop and Nish is out front dancing. And you're like, what is Nish's job here?
He's, there's a lot of times last year at Glastonbury, I accidentally early on spilt a drink over all of my stuff.
Yeah.
And
what a pro.
And I was really reliant on Nish to jump in there and take care of it. So he's earning his
He had the
keep.
blue roll.
Yeah.
So he's dancer and cleaner, basically.
Yeah. It's a lot of stuff.
It's like watching. Oh God, I told you I'm a fan. But when you're watching it, it's like again, and you're like, I need to know where the line of artifice is here because they're feeling this. They are Run DMC in this moment.
We are. It's all real. It's all real. It's the most real I've ever been.
But I think James mainly DJs, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, in the same way why I barbecue. So you've got something to get on with and you don't need to speak to people.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying this. I host a lot of parties.
Yeah.
Because then I'm in the kit.
Yeah.
I'm just bringing more
Busy.
vol of on. I'm busy.
Yeah.
It's a social awkwardness.
Yeah. It totally is. Stay busy. You don't need to speak to your guests. And then by the time it's finished and everyone's like, oh, we'll all have a chat now. No, I've got to do the washing up now.
Yeah. Sorry, I'd love to. I love the way I went, oh my God, James Acaster might be socially awkward. I'm bringing all the tea today.
What a revelation.
What are your signatures at parties when you're cooking in the kitchen? When you're making vol au vents, you said and stuff like what you got going on?
That was a smooth link.
Yeah, that was really
We're into
nice.
food.
Yeah.
Oh, I love anything which is just like, if there's loads of people over, like give you a good few like roast chickens or things that they can take, like a slow roasted lamb. Do you follow that Malise Cooks?
No.
On Instagram, mate. She's the queen of the slow roasted lamb, the reverse sear meat. Anything that you want to get into.
Yeah.
I'm an over provider. I'm from a big family. Do you know what I mean? So
slow roasted lamb is the absolute hack for entertaining, I think.
Oh yeah.
Get it in at like 1 PM if they're coming over in the evening. The house smells of that lamb for hours.
Yeah. And
So
lamb smelling
good.
house is good.
Yeah.
I think I want a candle. I want to light a lamb fat candle. I think that would really. So my house always smells of lamb. I'd be so relaxed.
That would really alienate the missus. And you just have dogs.
So if you're living in like a wattle and daub house, I think you can do that then.
No, people don't talk about wattle and daub enough.
No, you get
I
taught.
don't know what that is.
I got taught about it in school.
yeah.
I remember like in primary school they were like saying about, I don't know, maybe medieval times or something.
Yeah, pretty much.
And people would build their houses out of wattle and daub. And I thought that's going to be a
It's
thing.
like hay and mud, basically, right?
Yeah. I thought it was going to be something I'd have to remember forever and it would be very important. But I've not only ever encountered wattle or daub.
Deeply
I
satisfying.
learnt about it at the Weald Downland Museum. I don't know if you ever went there.
Is that the festival you go to?
No. It's like a medieval village, like when they build a medieval village and kids walk around and they go, look at how shit people used to live. Love it.
Acaster's still like, I dream of one.
I love a wattle and daub
Save me
house.
from the sinking sand.
Oh, man. Are you a foodie? Do you consider yourself much of a foodie?
I am. Do you know what? I was thinking of a bit of a gag the other day because this is leading to Glastonbury, right? I was doing a roast dinner the other day, right? And I realised all my hobs were being used and I thought, I've got to get the cauliflower on for cauliflower cheese.
Yeah.
And then I had this like ding memory of my husband's best mate, Jim, telling me about how he does a cauliflower cheese, vegetarian. He roasts the cauliflower first, so to get all the moisture out. Because sometimes you want the cauliflower leaves in, but then you can make it watery. So I texted him, I'm going, bit of a random one. I said, you were telling me about how you roast your cauliflower before cauliflower cheese. And then he went right deep into it and he was like, yeah, you need some cumin, a bit of salt, pepper, garlic powder, olive oil, really slow roast, get all the moisture out. And then you want a really strong roux with the strongest extra mature cheddar you can. And then, put that on and then cheese and panko on top. And then, it's, you get full umami, no wateriness. It's amazing and all that. And I said, oh, thanks, man. And I was thinking, how everyone on Ozempic talks about, I want to stop the food noise?
Yeah.
I was like, I need that food noise when I ain't got a hob. I need to remember. And he went, how do you remember that? I told you that in Glastonbury 2017 we were off had nuts. And I was like, that's the food noise I need, man.
Yeah.
I love it. I love food. I wish I didn't as much. I wish I didn't. I don't know people that don't love it.
It's joyous.
It's joyous.
Yeah, I wouldn't trade loving food for the world. I think it's perfect.
It's hard to love it.
Said it before. We're going to have to keep eating, so I'd like to love it, please.
Yeah.
I don't want to not like it, but they're like, oh, here we go again. I got to do this 3 times today.
Yeah.
I want to talk more about this cauliflower cheese though,
That's
because
what I'm
sounds
saying.
absolutely amazing.
It sounds great.
'Cause I love roasted cauliflower. Is like up there for me.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. So you're roasting the cauliflower, you're making the roux separately, and then mixing it in.
Yeah, I did it the other day, and he says cumin seeds, but I knew my kids would be like, about cumin seeds. So I did a little bit of I salt, pepper, olive oil, and just let it really slow roast with the leaves and stalk and everything, and then the cumin seeds, the salt. Yeah, I just said salt and pepper and cumin. I did cumin powder, a bit of paprika and garlic powder. Not granules like the powder, which you have to keep in an actual plastic jar because that stuff puffs up.
Yeah.
Right. So, so then that is really good. And then when I made a really thick roux with extra mature cheddar, and so when it coated that and then the topping and breadcrumbs, it avoids, because cauliflower cheese can just be like a bit plenary almost if you get it. It can just be a bit disappointing. That is how you do it.
Yeah, that sounds so good.
So yeah.
Because you got the char on the cauliflower from the roasting, and
We've only just started like filming all this, right?
I went boss-eyed.
And so like I'm really noticing now, like when you're describing the food, and I was thinking this sounds delicious, and I got really aware of what my face was doing because it's like it's just filming me, and I'm just there like, it's like normally I can get away with that during those bits, but now Benito's like papping us all the time.
So sorry to harp on about this. When you've mixed the roux and you put the panko on the top, how long are you then putting that in the oven? Because the cauliflower's all cooked already.
Yeah,
right?
but well, it's cooked anyway. Oiled in. But just slow to where it's crispy on the top.
Yeah.
Because then it's just you've got. I mean, it's an overused word, but it's the best. I mean, it's umami. It's umami or umama. That's what we're saying.
That's not an overused word.
TM.
That's the most he's ever grilled a guest.
Well,
You're not grilling it. That would be crazy. You'd just burn
I know, as soon as I said it, I thought I've left myself wide open.
You'd burn the breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
Come on, mate.
You're a maverick, Acaster.
Well, I shouldn't laugh, but
Hey.
it's your podcast.
It is.
Do you film that one?
We do film that one. We do film it. It's the way now, isn't
Pain
it?
in the arse, isn't it?
visuals.
Yeah.
You can get your short form
Does
content.
Benito make you do that?
Yeah, probably.
Making everyone
before
film
we
it.
started doing videos, some places started calling audio podcasts legacy podcasts. How awful is that?
Yeah.
When I started doing podcasts, I was the forefront.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were in the trenches. You built this bad boy.
I was the young guy out there
Yeah.
making waves. Then suddenly I'm legacy.
Yeah.
So depressing.
Do you know what that's called?
What?
A retronym.
A retronym.
Is when you didn't need the word analog until you got this sort of a digital clock. So it's when something is renamed on account of what comes after it. Retronym used to be an English teacher. There you go. Sometimes I
Love
have moments
that.
like that.
Yeah.
I do love that.
You try and you try and think of more.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, I'm not
Things become
going to go
legacy
down
when
that.
there's a new media.
Yeah.
Well, I know legacy is a word in itself, but you only need the word and the
description until something else has happened. I love that. I'm going to use that word.
I really do
isn't
love
it?
that.
Yeah.
it's fun, isn't it? Yeah.
What can you tell the listeners about your
shouldn't laugh, but
podcast?
I went on. Shouldn't laugh, but is with one of my absolute besties that just makes me laugh, which is a good way to do it. And it's just we try and find little niche corners of the internet that make us laugh. And let's face it, it's just like every other podcast where it's just being silly and talking nonsense.
An excuse to have a chat.
To have a chat. And so it's just us two, and we find it really funny. And she just does make me laugh. We just make each other laugh. So it's that kind of arrogance of like, oh my God, we're so funny.
We should record this.
Not for us, for them. They're missing out on his voice though. So you mad. So yeah, it is so funny. And what makes me laugh is that we never run out of things to say. So, we're finding the woman gets her hands bitten off by a shark doing a selfie in Turks and Caicos. We like all that. We like finding things like that. We like the Louvre heist, then find out how good looking the culprits are.
Fit robber.
Fit robbers. We're well into fit robbers. We like people.
Hot Convicts. That was obviously that was before you guys started doing the podcast.
That was what is going to be called Hot Convicts.
Yeah, Hot Convicts. Yeah.
And we like people stealing. Did you see the woman stealing langoustine outside a restaurant? No. Crime of opportunity. Yeah. She just did. But then we found out she took loads more. So we're like, oh no, she's a serial tea leaf.
The problem with some of these funny news stories is then you look into the background of it, it gets quite sad.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Sometimes we pick things and we're like, oh, no, a few people did die.
This is Ed's favourite stuff on the internet. He likes top 5 Karens.
Oh, yeah, top 5 Karens I love.
Tell me more. We've been accused of being called Karens.
Oh, really?
Literally, all we said, we were talking about the fact that Brooklyn Beckham is estranged from the Beckhams. I said, really, he's just Meghan Markle, isn't he? You've got to do your own brand. You've got to get away from the royal family. Yeah. Uh-huh. Someone went, why are they bringing her into it? What pair of old Karens? We were like, old.
They got you.
Karens?
Yeah, I'll take it.
No, I get a lot of top 5 Karens videos on my YouTube Shorts. I don't have TikTok. I'm on YouTube Shorts. It means I get everything on TikTok about 6 months later.
Yeah, maybe you're a bit too rock and roll. Yeah, maybe, yeah.
This is the thing he speaks the most seriously about is top 5 Karens.
Yeah.
Go on, Karen, go.
So it'd just be a compilation video of the top 5 Karens according to the person who's put the video together.
Yeah.
It's not always the same.
Who's your top Karen?
I like instant karma Karens.
Oh,
obviously.
Run off, fall over in their big fat leggings. Yeah.
They'll be bashing on someone's window saying you can't park outside my house even though it's free parking on the street.
I love that.
And then they're their leggings will they'll trip over their
leggings. Or
they
threaten to get their husband and the person from them just laughing.
They trip over their leggings. Or they get hit by a bike or something. It's funny stuff. It's instant karma.
Instant karma.
Which I don't think is what karma means necessarily. I think it's quite a sort of spiritual concept, right? Karma. No, when people started talking about karma, they weren't just Karen's going to trip over her leggings.
No, that was definitely not the original.
Dalai Lama was thinking.
Yeah. But he's no better, Dalai Lama.
Dalai Lama,
he's not a good guy.
That's put me off oysters.
I forgot that.
So weird, mate. That's what I mean.
Yeah, fucking hell. I forgot he did that shit.
Yeah.
I was mainly thinking about the time he said that women should cheer up and wear makeup. Do you remember that?
Yeah, he did say that.
I'm with him on that.
There we go. We've got the Dalai in.
And I'm back.
You're off on tour as well.
Oh, I am.
Very
That's
exciting.
Nice. Thanks for mentioning that.
Born Aggie. Which is a great
yes,
title. I love the term Aggie. I don't use it enough.
Oh, I tell you what, some words, they're just great, aren't they? And it came from, I did my first tour, Living My Best Life, and then I'd not been well. I'm a cancer survivor, and I bumped into a mate, and she'd had this mad brain hemorrhage and nearly died, and then she was talking about that we're both on the mend, and she said, and she had her 50th birthday, and she danced till sunrise, and she said, and this, Laura, this is how we're going to live our life, fighting and dancing. I thought, oh, that's the name of my tour, fighting and dancing, because it sounds like a night out in East London. And I thought, oh, wicked, fighting and dancing. Anyway, did a work in progress in Southend, and this woman on the front row, Deborah, who said, oh, I like my dogs more than my kids. And then these 2 women next to her went, they were her daughters. And then so she was gold all night. And then I said, it's just because I'm Aggie. I said, my life's good, career good, husband good, kids good. So still Aggie. She went, oh, mate. She goes, I was born Aggie. And I went, all right, that's it. And it is just born Aggie, because I think sometimes, you do all the work, don't you? You do all I've got a cranial osteopath, I do restorative yoga, I've got a hypnotherapist. I still want to fucking end someone on the Lizzie line. Yeah. And I think I'm just going to embrace it.
Yeah. I think you have to. I don't think there's any amount of spiritual practice that can overcome your natural instinct to be Aggie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gets things done.
Yeah.
Those ones are the worst. It's really hard to be on the tube or something and not at some point get incredibly angry.
Yeah.
Internally.
Not me.
Huh?
I don't.
Literally, you had to get the tube yesterday for the first time in ages, and you were texting me and Ben and saying you were in hell.
Yes. It's because the Victoria line decided to stop all the time, and I'm not talking about the normal stops.
Don't get me started on public transport stopping.
The normal stops, I'm fine with. I can live with that. I would prefer it if it just went from the stop I was at to the stop I wanted to go to.
Yeah, cool.
If I could,
can't just be a car.
yeah, that's what I say when I get on. Be a car. I think there should be a system where whoever it's like an auction, a blind auction. You put in how much money you're willing to pay, and the person who bids the most goes straight to the stop.
So the richest person.
Well, no,
every time.
it's who's willing to put the money out there.
So the richest person on the train.
Yeah, the richest
It
person
goes
on
to
the
where
train.
they
That
wanna
old
go.
lady with her freedom pass.
Yeah,
You're getting
yeah.
fuck all, Nan.
Yeah. So that's how you think it should. It
Yeah,
should
that's
be
how it should work.
But
this
do
was-
you know that is how the world works?
Yeah.
But not on the tube. It's
Yeah,
not,
good news,
not
then.
yet
My
reached the tube.
favourite Hank Simpsons quote of all time is like, I want what everyone wants. Preferential treatment.
But no, it kept stopping in between the stops.
Yeah.
And I was getting really aggy. Really aggy. I was like getting really hyped up about it. And then looking around, and obviously these people are all doing this journey every morning. They're commuting to work because it was quite early. And they're completely relaxed because they're so used to it. They're like reading their book. They're having a great time.
No, they're not having a great time. They are broken.
Yeah.
They are detached. There's a lot of disassociation.
But I'm looking
going
around
on.
being like, there needs to be a revolution. Right?
To pry these doors open and push the tube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carriage, yeah.
Or the bid system.
Yeah.
Or the bid system.
Yes, the bid system. Is there a certain type of etiquette on public transport that when it's not followed, your blood boils and you really get
Well,
angry?
you know what it's going to be. I think that money that Mr. Privilege is paying should be to be give out free AirPods to everyone because I do not want to hear your short form content reels very loud.
Yeah.
Oh, anyone that talks on, just don't talk.
Don't talk.
I mean, if you're on like a big train, big train, not a little train, you know, like a national rail.
Big grown-up train.
If you're on with like, oh, this is Karen's, but you know if you get on a train and people like if you're returning from a gig in the morning and from some shithole in the nowhere, no, I like everywhere I gig out, obviously, but then they're going into town, they're going back to London, and it's there. They've got the long flowy dresses on, the denim jackets, and some designer trainers, and they're all on the prosecco. Why are you talking?
Yeah.
Stop talking. No, I don't care. You're not funny. I hate you.
I would ban alcohol on trains because I think it just makes people talk really loudly.
Oh, no.
They turn it into a picnic, and I'm not happy about it.
Well, yes, but you know why? It's because like you might gig in Brighton, jump on the train back to London, wherever, and you're so stone cold sober because you're just run from your Brighton gig, and everyone is off there, and you're like, you see it, and you go, it's the ugliest when you're sober.
Yeah.
Yes, or drink. You drink.
Oh, I drink. I get pissed before every train. Yeah. That's also an option, I suppose.
Problem solved.
Problem solved.
We always start with still or sparkling water. Do you have a preference?
Oh yeah, still. I like, still. Or like tap water, because like just keep it like to me that is why I spend money on that.
Is there like if you're having tap water, where's the best tap water in the country?
I'd probably like Yorkshire Dales.
Yeah.
You know when you go, oh, my husband's from North Yorkshire, and you go up to Yorkshire and then you wash your hair and you're like, what are these? Bubbles? What's going on? Because I'm a hard water girly all my life, and you can't believe how nice it is. So yeah. And once I was in, actually I might change to Scotland. For my cousin married a Scottish girl, and we were in the Birks of Aberfeldy, which Robert Burns wrote about, and I drank water from a real spring. That's well nice.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it, when you do that? Actually,
You can have that if you want for your drink
the
water.
springs from the Birks of Aberfeldy. I'll probably get people writing and going, there isn't a spring there. You just that was a puddle, you div. But no, unreal.
If you drunk out of a puddle, if it turns out you got tricked and drunk out of a puddle, that'd be what a twist to the episode.
Well, there are real springs in
Yorkshire. Yeah, I think I like literally we were walking the Yorkshire Dales and I put my water bottle under like a waterfall thing and drank the water. It was amazing.
You did?
Yeah.
You did?
You don't think I'd do that?
Oh, no, I don't think you would do that.
Why not?
Not Ed Gamble. I think you would go, that's disgusting river water.
I was younger then.
I was less neurotic.
Yeah.
But
I wasn't crusted over by life.
I am like, because I was born and raised in East London, I am like a dog out a window when I'm in in countryside. My husband jokes with me that they goes, because I don't know what a like village, county, all that nonsense, but they go, he says there's only two places in the UK for Laura, London and not London. So he has this joke where you're like, oh, it's all right, calm down, yeah, we get it, you're not in not London, because I'm like, I love it. And like there's a lot of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves film there, so you know the scenes of those waterfalls as well. It's magic, isn't it?
That's funny when you know that something's filmed there as well. When you get told such and such was filmed here.
Yeah.
And like for some reason, it does change how you kind of like interact with it.
Yeah.
When you know that Robin Hood was filmed here.
Yeah.
And that like Costner must have been walking around here.
Costner walked on this ground.
Costner probably took a piss up a tree.
Yeah.
He drank from the
Between
spring.
Yeah. That's why the cafe can sell their sausage rolls twice the price.
Yeah.
Curse you, Kevin.
Well, that sounds great. And you just want it straight out the spring.
Yeah.
So we'll start within the Dream Restaurant. You got that spring there in Scotland, and you're going to lap out of that.
Yeah.
Yes, that sounds wicked.
Poppadoms or bread? Poppadoms or bread, Laura Smyth? Poppadoms or bread?
I feel like another answer I'm going to give is going to contradict this, but I'll get to it. I'm going to go poppadoms, right?
Yeah.
Because poppadoms for me are firmly in the category of things that just do not have calories. You know what I mean? They're so light. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then I can eat 29. There is not a limit to the number of poppadoms I will smash. I love it all. I love Thai abs in Whitechapel, you know, and it's just like endless madness. And I'm just like, I love it. I love it. Yeah. It's
So you want unlimited?
Oh, unlimited poppadoms. I think if you know when people are like, oh yeah, unlimited, crunchy. I want everything on it all at once. And if that was going to be another question, I've listened to the pod. But yeah, I love them. I love poppadoms. I love bits.
Little bits.
I love bits.
I love little bits.
Yeah.
Just bits.
Bits. When my oldest, she's like in her 20s now, but she invented the word chups because she just, anything snacks or crunchy or anything was just, she's a little 2-year-old like chups. So we still use it in the family.
That's
like,
lovely.
can I bring anything? You're like, I'll just get some, just beer and chups. So I'll stop for some beer and chups. And it just means everything, the crunch, the poppadom, anything. Because Brazilians do that, don't they? Like my friend, like Brazilians love texture contrast, don't they? So anything is like, well, I'll crunch this onto them. They're putting everything to make sure there's that going on. And I'm
texture's so important, and I think beer and chips is perfect.
Perfect.
I can't have a beer without chips. These
No,
days.
you can't have a beer without chips.
No.
Wow.
Yeah, beer and chips in front of the telly. Hello.
What's your favourite chips with beer?
Bombay mix or
Bombay mix. We haven't really had that come up very
it's
much
not
on the
talked about
pod.
it much,
The
yeah.
Bombay mix.
It's a sort of another family legend about it. My mum was doing a sort of counselling therapy course and all this, and she said, "Do you know what we had to do? We had to list things we're grateful for." And my sister Sarah, who's almost like, I know she'd never have it. Like if you even go, "How you doing? You happy?" She go, "Oh, don't start all that." Like, you know what? So we always thought, "Oh, that's nice. Let's list grateful things." She went, Sarah went, "Do you know what? I'm so grateful they don't label the calories on Bombay mix." And it's like, yeah, it's spot on.
Yeah.
That was the first thing.
The only thing.
Brilliant. So you're a Bombay mix family.
Yeah.
You're all addicted to the Bombay mix.
But there's all sorts of variations on Bombay mix, isn't there? Like all different sort of charts going on. I love it.
What are your favourite little... I remember my dad used to really be into it. And the little crunchy noodles,
That's what I was
the
gonna
little
say.
sticks.
probably my highlights personally in the
Yeah,
Bombay
because you
mix.
can get them just the crunchy noodles, can't you?
Can you? Can you just go full on?
straight. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would be. But I do love bad ones. Like I love coated nuts. Like they call them like beer nuts, and they're like that crunchy, spicy coat on a nut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, beer and nuts is like, that's my go-to.
That's the ultimate chips.
Roasted salted nuts is the ultimate chips. But yeah, those coated ones are pretty good as well.
Coated ones
I tell you what can fuck off chips wise
There we
is
go.
when you buy some nuts and you're like, I bought some nuts, and then you look and you've bought like a mixed nuts thing, and those big weird pieces of corn.
Yeah,
I hate them.
leave off.
You know what I mean?
Like a corn
The
nut.
giant
It's a corn nut.
crunchy corn.
I think I might like those.
You like? Well, come over. I've got loads of them.
I've bought like packets of just those before.
Yeah, Greys do them. They are. I get it. No, but
You
they are
pop one
disappointing.
in. You're looking forward to a cashew or an almond or something, and it's a big bit of corn, like a baby's tooth. It's horrible.
Oh yeah.
I spent and that's admin for me because I have to tip them out on the table and then sort them all out.
Do you know? You're funny you mentioned admin because I'm such a a greedy person. Sort of, I didn't know what else I was going to finish up with, like greed out. I'm such a greedy fat cunt. I kind of like admin sometimes, like pistachios.
Yeah.
I sometimes think that admin
Yeah.
is the only thing stopping me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But have you seen the pistachio? They now sell pistachios without the shells on.
That's decadence.
What? It's awful. It's so dangerous.
Dangerous.
Because then I'm done. I'm like chugging them.
Yeah.
So you do need the shells there. That is that barrier in the way of eating the whole bag. Because I'm like, my thumbs hurt now.
Yeah.
I can't be arsed having any more of these. It's a workout.
If you want to stop eating pistachios, you want to watch my dad eating a bag of those on a Saturday afternoon, watching Football Focus. He eats a bag of pistachios in his bare feet, and his bottom of his feet are absolutely rank, man. And they look like the pistachios.
Oh,
so just makes you
They're
like
green. He's got green feet.
Yeah, it's like
Shrek.
It's like, you know, the skin of a pistachio. They're like the red, and but the different shades of just everything overlapping, and it's like it's crazy feet, man. Just dried up, horrible feet.
How old's your dad? Yeah,
he's in his 60s. He's about to turn 70, actually.
Yeah, that's it. You've done some miles in them feet, ain't you?
Yeah, those feet are rank, man. So they'll make you never ever want pistachios again once you see the combination of that, him eating them with those bare feet out watching Football Focus. That
is almost enough to put me off. But I'm going to go again.
Yeah.
The thing about the shelled pistachios, that takes away the joy of when you are eating pistachios. You know, when you get one that's not shelled, it's I'm in flow. Is this what flow state is?
Yeah.
Is this what they're talking about? Do you know, like, that's a vibe, isn't it?
But then you come crashing back down to earth when you get one you can't open.
Yeah. And
it's awful.
So it's a journey.
Yeah.
That's zen. That is life.
And look, I used to, and this probably is even more like life. When I was younger...
Let's see how much like
when I was
life
younger,
this is.
if I got one of those ones you couldn't open, I really tried hard to open.
Oh, I'd be
crunching it with my mouth, smashing it, taking my shoe off, trying to bash it with the sole.
Yeah.
Try and get it open. Now, just throw it away.
I mean, you need Acaster Senior's feet on the case.
Yeah. That's probably why they're like that.
Yeah.
But that's why they look like
He's opening the pistachios with his feet like a big chimp.
He's been smashing them all like people stomping grapes and making wine.
Yeah.
He's just stomping a big old vat of pistachios in his bare feet, cutting them up. All the shells just jagged in, just cutting up the soles of his feet. All the salt going in it, and he just sits there.
Screaming his head off.
Yeah.
He's a hero, Acaster. He's a hero.
I guess he's quite an inspiration, actually. If you're listening, Dad.
Yeah.
He doesn't listen to this.
Yeah. Which is why you just said all that stuff.
Yeah. Have fun telling him, Mum. Have fun relaying it to him later on today. Try to explain this to him in a way that he understands. Your dream starter.
Prawns in garlic butter. Let's keep it simple, man.
Yeah, lovely. Big prawns.
Big old, deveined, charred, and then in the sort of super garlicky butter.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple of tomatoes that have wilted down, that have really got down in there. And this is why I say this might contradict the Poppadom thing, because then you're going to get bread with that.
Oh, okay, nice. Because you need the bread with that.
You need the bread with that. And I love, I'm a good cook and I love hosting. I love, if I take my kids out, I always go to an Italian restaurant. If it's a birthday or a celebration, there's something about them real old school Italian restaurants that really make you feel like you're going out.
Yeah.
They've not changed the menu in years. The tiramisu's not changed. The
candles in one of those bottles of wine with a straw around the bottom.
I don't want modernity in that. And they really look after the kids, and it feels like you've gone out. I want to be garlicky up to the eyeballs. And so that garlic prawns is just a joy. And if that's on a starter anywhere, I'm getting that. And then the bread gets involved. And I mean, before I even started the prawns, the bread is in there doing its thing for me to get to. Because do you know the word tunken?
No.
So
we're learning so many words.
Yeah. Is this another one of your family's words?
It is in a way, because it's a Hungarian phrase. So my brother is married to a Hungarian woman, and they live in Budapest. And I mean, she's an absolute, health freak, like bone broth kind of amazing goddess. But when it comes to bread and tunken, so tunken is just the Dunkin' tunken, I think I'm German. So it's a big thing. Like it's a stage of the meal.
In Hungary, is it called tunken donuts?
Oh no, I don't know. I don't think they'd have such thing. There's shades of communism still there, but the
oh yeah, sorry.
Come get with it. Use the block. But it's such a stage of the meal that almost as important, like almost get that out of the way.
Yeah.
So on Christmas Eve, like they're all over, but it's like I did garlic prawns and mussels and stuff, and then it's just the bread is the main stage. Actually, that's when we're in it.
Yeah.
If I was watching someone not dip bread in some garlic prawns or butter or wine sauce, I'd be like, I'm
Yeah.
like, pass us that here. I have no shame. I'll do it on a first date.
Yeah.
So it's the prawns, but it's also the power of the tunkan that is very, very important.
You've got to embrace the power of the tunkan, haven't you?
Yeah.
We went to a vineyard on Lake Balaton in not Budapest, Hungary. It's just outside Budapest. But honestly, the food that they give there, like it's all just like for the dipping, like the bacon and the meats and the oil. It's like, mate.
Have you been to, and I've talked about this bread a lot, it's just moved actually, it's a restaurant called Kudu that was in Peckham.
No.
And it's just moved to Marylebone, I think.
Oh man.
Go on.
If you're
I can't believe you're about to tell all this because like
this is ultimate tunkan, isn't it?
yeah, this is yeah, go. I'm just too excited for you to say it.
The bread, when you order the bread, it's like a brioche bread. They're baking it fresh.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's not overly sweet either. It's perfect bread. But then they bring with it, and you can choose between the two, or you can get both. A little pan, little cast iron pans of just one is melted butter and so much of it with bacon and something else in there, some herb.
Yeah.
And the other one is like got little shrimp in it, and it's like melted shrimp butter.
Fuck, yes.
And it's just so much butter. It's all about the tunkan.
Have you had chicken butter?
Yeah.
Oh, fucking chicken butter.
Chicken butter.
I've not had chicken butter.
Oh,
You know chicken
mate.
butter?
I don't think so.
It's just
With chicken
basically
skin on the
rendered
top
fat
as
and
well.
chicken skin.
Right, yeah.
Mate, if I had a tail, I would wag it. That is fucking.
Yeah.
This is what I mean about I wish I weren't a foodie.
Yeah, but then where are you going to get that joy from? There's something so specific.
Oh yeah, you're what, like your husband?
No, but it's not the same thing, is it? It's not the same thing. Like the feeling I got when you said chicken butter
Oh, I know.
is very different to the feeling I get when I think about my wife. They're
Yeah,
two different
yeah,
things.
yeah,
They're two different layers
Try
of
hard
joy.
a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not what I was saying, darling.
She doesn't listen to this.
No.
Oh yeah. James's mum, can you pass on to my wife?
Tell me how to spell kudu.
Kudu.
I didn't even expect that. That is brilliant.
Yeah.
All right, so then kudu in Marylebone.
Yeah.
And I just going for the butter.
Yeah, I think they are still doing that. I think it's one of their signature.
I think we went there for was it our 100th episode?
Yeah, we went there to
We
celebrate.
went there
when it
for
was
a
in
little
Peckham.
celebrate.
Yeah.
The three of us.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
Ben hated being around us. He loved the meal,
Yeah.
but he was really not happy that he had to spend the evening with us.
Yeah.
I was smashed before we got there.
Ed was smashed. I was very much having to mediate because, like, I think I was just so annoyed he was having to hang out with us for the evening.
He
Really
doesn't
didn't
like
like
us as
it.
people, but
Doesn't
we
like
are.
us as people.
But by God, it's Canay podcast.
Yeah. Your dream main course.
All right. I've thought a lot about this because I love a lot of food, right? And I love Caribbean food. There's a lot of food. But I actually want a whole soy roast chicken on just boiled rice.
Lovely. Soy roast.
You know, like a soy roast chicken that you'd see hanging in Chinatown where it's
Oh,
been
yeah.
poached with the ginger, the spring onion and spices, then coated
For a
and
second,
slow
I thought you meant
roasted.
like a fake chicken.
No. Can you imagine being vegetarian or someone
Yeah.
telling you they're vegetarian? You're like, you got no skin in the game. I don't care about your opinion on nothing now.
Ben.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah. There he is. There he is sitting there.
No, but I like vegetables. But do you do the fake? Do you do fake stuff?
He loves a corn
Oh,
roast. He
bless
loves it. He
you.
just raised his eyebrows twice when he said it.
Yeah,
He said,
he
I love
loves
a corn
corn roast.
roast.
He loves-
Yeah.
yeah,
He
yeah.
says literally no skin in the
I
game.
have
I'm going to
got-
translate because he'll edit himself out otherwise.
I have got a sister who's a vegetarian, and she always says, I miss the crap meat. Like, I miss hot dog or crap meat.
Mm-hmm.
But I have seen her eat the chicken off a KFC, like the skin off a KFC if she's drunk enough.
Yeah, well, that's fine, isn't it?
That's for just the skin.
It's not part of the chicken, is it?
Yeah. It's like, you can eat my skin if you want. I won't have any problems with that.
I think, so that's so it's a soy, you know, when it's, and there's a Vietnamese in Dalston that does it really well. Any place in Chinatown when it does it really well. Like, I like that simple food. And I think the reason I really thought about this, I really, really thought about it. You know the film Blues Brothers, when they go in and he says, I want 2 whole fried chickens. I remember being really young thinking, whoa. Same with the film Amelie. We're like, like the whole chicken. And I think it's because I'm the youngest of a lot of kids. So there was a phrase my nan used to say was like, there's plenty for everyone, but you got to be quick.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of like elbows at dawn, like you ate for seconds. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's like, you know, you could get some. So I think that's not, and it's not that there was scarcity. There was plenty for everyone, but it's like everyone's an eater. So I think that idea of like a whole roast chicken for little old me, Laura Smith's gonna get a whole roast chicken. This has slightly been tainted. Have you watched The Beast in Me?
No.
Oh, brilliant! Watch it.
Okay.
But what's the actor in it? Matthew. It's the Welsh actor who plays an absolute psychopath.
I know who you mean. Yeah, Reese, is it?
Matthew
Matthew
Reese.
Yeah.
Welsh name. So Matthew, I don't think I'm giving too much away to say he's a psychopath, but he eats a whole roast chicken.
Yeah.
While he's very scary attack dogs, and it's the most intimidating thing. So he kind of, in the same way, watching your dad eat pistachios,
Exactly.
like put me off. It almost tainted it, but yeah. So it is
whole soy roast chicken, like the ones that are hanging the windows.
Yeah.
Do you want one from the window? I've always thought I don't want the window meat.
Oh no, you don't want a window meat.
I don't want meat I don't want a chicken that everyone's been looking at. Do you know what I mean?
That just Laura made me laugh saying, "Don't want the window, mate."
Yeah.
I know, and I get it.
Yeah. I don't want one that's been out there, you know. Yeah, I don't want the one that, like it looks nice. It's a good way of getting me in.
Yeah,
but I don't want the one from the window.
No,
you know?
they look like they've been there a while. It's got that glossy sheen, like an old school cake shop in the high street.
Yeah.
But I'm not a duck fan, you see. I think that's an overrated thing, but they're
Really?
good. Yeah.
Oh.
There you go. Controversial.
Yeah, even
That's
the
a bit
crispy duck.
controversial,
Crispy
actually.
duck pancakes. You don't like them?
Oh, hey.
Real big. That is taking a big percentage of a Chinese order when you're at home.
Mm-hmm.
Squeeze ain't worth the juice sometimes,
Sure.
if I can quote Top Boy.
So it's taken up a lot of like real estate in the bags. You know, when you get the takeaway home,
Yeah, spot
so much
on.
of it is all the
And it's expensive
crispy
as well.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If I've got 3 kids, you're going what? Half? You ain't going half duck, are you?
No, you didn't get half duck.
You ain't going to, and then, yeah. So, yeah, I'm not bothered about that. I'm not bothered about fancy duck. I'm not bothered. Fancy duck. I had a picture of a little bow tie.
Little bow tie fancy duck.
Yeah, but a soy roast chicken.
Yeah.
With a sort of maybe morning glory side, if that was going to be the next question. You know, like the proper good, nice
Yeah.
Chinese vegetables, just simply done, load of garlic, bit of sesame oil.
Yeah, sesame oil, so good.
Yeah, sesame oil is really nice.
Yeah.
Although I think I've got a whole bottle of sesame oil at home and you just never use it. I bought it for a stir fry because Jamie Oliver said to use it in the book. He said, get sesame oil for this. So I did it.
The book.
The book is in the book.
The book.
The good book.
The Bible. By Jamie Oliver. And did the stir fry. And then it was very nice, but I've never done it again since. And that sesame oil was just there. And every now and again, actually, this has just reminded me. This is such a useful podcast.
Yeah.
I need to buy olive oil. I've forgotten.
Yeah.
The other day, I had to grill an aubergine, but using vegetable oil.
No.
God.
You don't
Because
want
I'd already done all the prep,
that. Yeah.
cut the aubergine in half, done all that, scored it, went to get my olive oil. The bottle's there, it's empty. And my first instinct was to be like, let's start to think my girlfriend's done that. And then I remembered doing it.
It's always got to be the first instinct, though.
Yeah, first instinct.
Blame others.
Blame someone who never does anything wrong, to be fair to her.
Yeah.
And then remember it was me. And that when I did it, I just went, I can't be fucked to rinse that and then sort it out. I'll leave it there. And when my girlfriend's cooking something next, she'll have to deal with it.
Yeah, but who was cooking something next, James?
Yeah, I was cooking something next.
Yeah.
I feel like Davina McCall in Begin Again.
Oh, yeah.
Or whatever. I'm like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Wow, you're a bad guy.
So you roasted an aubergine in vegetable oil.
Yeah. I had to do that. It didn't taste very nice.
Yeah.
So, like, I've got to get that olive oil on the way home
Never have
today.
to buy olive oil. Never have to buy it.
You in a deal? You in a brand deal?
No, not a brand deal. Well, yeah, with my mum, I guess. With my mum.
What?
Oh, go on.
Because every time she goes on holiday, she brings back, because it's normally it'd be like Greece or just anywhere. Like anywhere seems to make good olive oil in the Mediterranean.
Greece makes great olive
She'll
oil.
bring back like a huge tin of it for me.
That's lovely.
And then, I don't know if you're doing this at your house. I'm decanting it into a squeeze bottle, my olive oil, because it makes you feel like a chef.
Look at you.
That's it now.
Yeah.
So you squeeze it like a...
Yeah, you just like, it gives you...
Shoot it out there.
Then you have more sort of control over how much you're using as well.
Yeah.
When you're putting it in the pan or whatever. And if you're drizzling it on stuff,
Yeah.
then just to finish it off. I actually bought it that time you came over and I made pizzas in the pizza oven.
Great day.
And then you drizzle a bit of olive oil over the top, just gives it that little bite at the end.
Have you thought of flavouring it as well? You could decant into another one with like garlic and chilli and all that.
Yeah, but then where does it end, Laura?
I don't know.
I'll never leave the house.
Do you know what I've done recently?
Go on.
I've had to ferment my own chilies, garlic and ginger because because chili oil is so nice, like with the, like the proper whatever it's called, the Rayu sort of madness. I mean, that is so calorific, it's wild. So I buy the fermented stuff, but that's about £8-9 a pot, like, a little one, and I go through it. That's one sandwich. But then I've had to do it. I've done it myself because I'm like, I thought I've got to go straight to the source here.
That's brilliant. So you're fermenting. You've got all these jars, and you're like fermenting on.
No, I've gone high risk, high reward. I've done a kilo kiln in a jar.
Amazing.
Yeah. Because I think if I balls it up, I've really ballsed it up. So there is literally a kilo of chilies, ginger, and garlic together with a salt brine, and I'm just watching it.
Do you have to burp it?
I'm burping it.
What?
I'm burping it.
Burping it?
Because it bubbles, it could pop. So you open it every day. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Burp it. You open it every day.
Oh, nice.
Sigh it. Close it. So I'm only 4 or 5 days in, but
that's exciting.
Oh, thrilling!
I'm buzzing for you. That's great.
I can't wait to feedback. Yeah.
What are you going to use it all for?
Anything. That's the thing. Once you've tasted fermented chili, I can't remember the brand, but that's going on everything, mate. I couldn't name something that I wouldn't put that on. Nice. You couldn't. Don't even try.
I'm not even going to try. What I'm doing is I'm thinking about all the things I would put it on.
Oh.
And it's everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Cheese toasty. Are you mad? Scrambled eggs. Are you insane? Poached salmon. Yes.
Yeah.
We're going in.
I buy, actually I've just tried to stop buying it now because I just go through, I'll eat it like a yogurt.
Yeah.
The Laugen Mar crispy chili oil.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's the best thing in the world.
Oh, mate.
And that will go on anything. And I saw the other day on Instagram someone putting it on ice cream. I was like, I'm trying that.
Yeah, that's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's the classic crispy chili oil that I like. The one with peanuts is fine, but it just doesn't, it's not as crispy.
Yeah. But have you looked at the calorie count? I hate to be this guy.
No, why would I do that?
I know.
I'm just going to live in my life here.
Yeah. Let me live! I've already been on the Victoria line today.
Yeah, it is oil, and when you're eating it like with a spoon, you do things.
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't be doing this.
I'm going 1,500 calories a jar.
Yeah.
Small jar.
Yeah.
And we know that.
My wife put a jar of it in my stocking last year for Christmas.
That's nice.
Pretty good.
Did it make you hobble when you walked? I'm so sorry.
So your dream side, is it the Morning Glory?
Yeah, I had it once in China. The worst thing about Chinatown, because we gig in town a lot and you're sort of there a lot. I feel like I'm there more than I've ever been in my life. Sometimes you have the most amazing thing that you can't remember where you had it or what you did. So yeah, it would be just I once had the most perfect Morning Glory. So it's that one specifically, but it was just so good, so good.
So you can't remember the place?
No, not helpful.
My go-to in Chinatown now is Cafe TPT. I absolutely
TPT's
love it.
legendary.
Love it so much. The hot pots.
Oh yeah.
Go in and get the aubergine and pork hot pot. So hearty and warming and it's just like, I could get every now and again. I'll think about it and then I was like, I have to have that soon. Because it's like, and I'll just be for days being like, when are we going to Chinatown and have that hot pot?
It's like, Goblin Market or something. Like, I've got to go. Like, there's sometimes you hit on a hot pot and then you're like, that's what I need. When they're the home hand pulled noodles, when you're going, that's what you're checking out in Chinatown. Who's making their own noodles here? Who's making their own dim sum?
Have you been to Heidi Lao?
Yeah,
Which is on like Piccadilly Circus, basically, on Leicester Square. It's mad.
It's mad, but we go to the one, because my kids love it, that's another birthday celebration. We go to the one at O2. So
right, okay. Yeah. I love it. I mean, like you go in, it's open till like 3 a.m, I think, as well.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, certainly the one in Central is. And they give you like, while you're waiting, they'll be like, you can get your nails done, I think, while you're waiting. Like, and
have you had a birthday there?
No.
Because I'll take my kids, when they come and sing with the radio, it is proper like, what is going on here? It feels American. Like they do this big song and they sing in Cantonese, then in English, and then
amazing.
They give you freebies. You go with kids, they're getting all toys and freebies. It's all the fun of the fair. We're ordering more. It's hot pot. It goes mental.
The hot pot's amazing though.
Unreal.
I go to absolute town on that. Making the little sauce up at the sauce station, and then the guy come over and do the noodle dance while he's stretching it.
Dance.
But then you want more noodles, and he comes back over, and now we just go, you don't have to do the dance again, man. We've seen the dance.
Yeah.
And he's like, thank you.
Yeah.
I'd want it every time.
Yeah.
Every single time when I'm getting the receipt. everything.
Yeah.
Dream drink.
Do you know what? I've listened to this and not, like, to me, I love a wine, right? I do love a wine. To me, if it's a dream restaurant, dream drink, give me the most expensive wine give me the most expensive red on the menu. I want a few £100, 1,500. I would love to know what a £2,000 bottle of red wine tastes like. I want to know what that tastes like. Because when I have gone really bougie with wine, you're like, I didn't know red wine could be creamy, like positively creamy, when it's so good. So I would want the most expensive wine you could possibly give me, and I don't even know what that is.
But I think that's great, because very few people will come in and say that on this podcast and just bring me the most expensive thing on the menu. But I love it. But what I want to do is we'll give you that. But also, do you want a drink that you definitely know you like? Because what if we bring the most expensive bottle of wine on the menu and it tastes like shit, it's so old? Because it doesn't mean it's good if it's like
I think it does.
Yeah, I think it does.
I mean, when people go, I wish we could get wine reviews next to choices on... I'll tell you what the review is. That ascending scale of cash money? That one. Because even at home, you start going like, I'd do a £5, £6, £7 bottle, then you like £10, but then you... I'd say I'm now in the £30 bracket. I want a £30 bottle of Pinot Noir. Do you know what I mean? And then I'm like, I wonder what £60. It is getting better. Let's not get silly.
But I think once you start getting up to those prices, like thousands of pounds, what you're paying for is the age, which I guess would have an impact on the taste. But then you're paying for the place where it's made and the name of the place, which doesn't necessarily make it better.
It's a dream restaurant. I ain't paying enough.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying that it doesn't necessarily make the wine better.
Well, do you know what? A friend of ours,
really know about wine.
Boggle, he's Mrs. Alex. Boggle.
Yeah.
All my husband's from Yorkshire, everyone's got a nickname.
Yeah.
Nightmare trying to do wedding invites.
Do you know why he's called Boggle?
He almost thought something went, brother. But he's in my brother's band. He can barely talk, Boggle. He's the funniest person you'll ever meet, and he sings. They do like Crosby, Stills and Nash Harmony. He's the most beautiful singer. Yeah. Bring a tear to your eye. When he left to drive back to Northumberland on my wedding, I went, have a safe trip. He went, I won't. Bugger, what's wrong with you? Anyway, legends. We've all got a nickname, but they're all called James.
Yeah.
So his Mrs. Alex, her dad, farmer, French, he passed away suddenly a few years ago. But what he used to do, and I don't know why, he bought an old sort of meat wagon police transport thing where prisoners would be sort of transported. And he would drive to vineyards in France that were sort of too small or didn't have the sort of, like whatever the license to like export license, whatever. So they would be really niche. And he would fill up this van with wine. So even though he's passed away, and not been here for a while, it's almost like a little bit of a lottery. We've been up there, stayed at their place in, they're in, up north somewhere, not London. And they'll decant a lovely bottle of red. And sometimes it is a potluck, so you go, and it's like, oh no, it's no good. The best wine I've ever drunk in my life is there. Yeah. And then we have a little Google and it is hundreds of pounds worth, and because it's been there years. And it's just a joy that this gift is still given and it's phenomenal and they know the wine. So that was my first taste, like, oh, this is what a few £100 tastes like. And it is unreal, but, and so that's quite a fun thing. So I think that,
we'll just bring you an outstandingly expensive bottle of red wine.
Yeah, I'd love to, out of curiosity.
Can you Google the most expensive bottle of wine in the world?
Yeah, but you'll just get something that's been sold at an auction that
belong to Picasso.
It's like a Petrus. I mean, like it's something like a Petrus or a Chateau Lafite Rothschild or
he's
something.
He's so over it already. He's absolutely over it. He's like,
the thing is, how you know is it just ends up being like trainers or watches. It's supply and demand. Like Burgundy prices have shot up in the last 5 years. Doesn't mean that it's any better than it was 5 years ago.
Oh, look, he ain't changed. He's still an average guy. He's that guy. I sometimes wonder about, that kind of youth is wasted on the young. These wonderful things. Imagine finding that. Yeah. Imagine getting to the point where it's commonplace, or, sometimes you think the people that should really appreciate it, like the people that would really appreciate it could never afford it sometimes. Do you know what I mean? And I hope because obviously I'm going to be like a podcast millionaire and all that soon, innit? So when I'm a podcast millionaire, I hope I always appreciate what you just said,
I've started watching this guy on YouTube called Vegas Wine. He's a sommelier in Las Vegas. He's
nice.
Amazing guy, like really so enthusiastic about wine, like genuinely passionate about it, is his hobby. And he wears like Meta glasses when he goes to work. Ooh. So you just see him opening these like wildly expensive old bottles of wine. It takes him ages to get the cork out. So it's really fun. He talks about the wine. But his customers are obviously the richest people in Las Vegas.
Yeah, and it's Vegas.
They couldn't give a shit.
No, of course.
So he's like describing this wine to them, being like, "This is from 1962. It's the best vintage for this area, for this grape." And he's like pouring it for them. He's like, "Wow, look at that color." And they're like, "Thank you. Oh wow, thank you so much." They don't give a shit. It's awful.
And then he pushes a Karen into the road.
Yeah.
It's your favourite kind of YouTube.
Karen.
Have you ever been to Tillingham Wines?
Rings a bell, actually.
It's great. Tillingham's great. I mean, they've got their own vineyard, but that was where we went. We did a taster menu there, and my husband took me for our anniversary. It's really lovely, really off grid, and I loved it. It was like poetic. This girl, like, we had wine matching for each course, and the way she was describing it, and and there was some real sort of nice sort of curveballs in there, of like there was a really lovely white that had been sort of produced in the same way sherry's sort of produced,
nice.
like letting them almost become currently on the vine, but then and it was just like, I'd love, it's something that I would love to be more educated on, and I'd love to know more, just so I could like patronise people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's fun.
No, but it is nice to know what and why, and when you do taste something, you can really go, oh wow, I like luxury. I like it, when you're like, I went to the Versace exhibition the other day, and you are just like, oh, it's breathtakingly brilliant. The clothes, they are, when you up close, you're like, this is, I love couture for that, when you go, no, this is something, this is different gravy, and so, are we any closer on that Googling the wine, or was he right?
Well, this is what I'm talking about. This is not...
What? What's the matter?
It probably tastes like shit, it doesn't matter.
You let him say. What's the best one you've ever had then, Gamble?
$558,000.
What that one?
In Romany Conti,
That's delicious.
Yeah, Patricia said that.
I love that one.
You love that one?
I love a bit of Fortnum & Mason's.
And at least it's been stored properly, and it's like, new from a shop. It's not
$6.5 grand. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
just out of curiosity. But in answer to your question, if I didn't like that, I would have a vodka martini with a twist.
Beautiful.
That's my favourite, like, starting off drink.
We'll give you one of those when you arrive. We can put that at the top of the menu.
What's it called? I can't think of the word.
Aperitif.
There you go. That's aperitif.
Have that as an aperitif. Your dream dessert.
Well, I love an affogato with something else chucked in. That's all fun and games because it sort of sorts you out. Because I'm not
make sure you write down.
Yeah, I'm not a super dessert person, but you know what I love? Like, I love, for sheer delight, a steamed jam sponge, custard, and ice cream.
Oh yeah,
custard and ice cream.
Tag team.
You must respect that.
Much respect that.
I think if there was a family crest that my maiden name's Taylor, it'd be both. That's the motto. Family both.
Both.
Would it have custard and ice cream on the crest, or would it just be, because both just applies to everything, right?
Yeah, just both. No, everything.
Yeah, you said that earlier about the butter at Kudu before you heard what the butters were.
Yeah.
and said
that's true.
There's two different types. You can have both. Both. Yeah. I hadn't described them yet.
Not waiting. Could have said one of them's got shit in it.
Yeah.
No, both.
Yeah.
Both. Yeah, I'm loving both.
Yeah, I don't want to choose, but yeah, I love a steamed sponge pudding, man, and yes, and raspberry jam. I think
it's nostalgia as well. That sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's because I'm not a dessert person, but I think actually when I was a dessert person, that's nostalgia of childhood, and my mum can do a steamed sponge. I love an old school dessert, And I love steaming a sponge at home.
Do you want the dream one to be made by your mum?
Oh no, she's in that weird, I'm in my 70s, I'll just eat tuna kind of vibe now. She's gone off. She'll shoot. She cooks for the dog. You know what I mean? My mum's well off the ball. When she throws it down, she really throws it down. Yeah. But you ain't getting a steam sponge out of Jenny now. She's busy. She's so busy doing fuck all. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. Do you want to, maybe your homemade one? Is that is yours good?
No. I'd love to trust someone. Whoever's, I love things. I love elevated things. You know, like it's such a joy when they get it right on like the Great British Menu. You know, when you really see someone elevate an old school thing, and they get it right. There's nothing better in the world.
Yeah,
I want it this big. You know.
Did you ever see Ed eating stuff on Great British Menu and wish that you could eat it?
Yeah, I just wish I could sit next to Andy Oliver and everything. I love her.
She's the best.
She's the best. I saw her once and an M&S and I went, oh my God, I love you. And you know, she had that face like, not today. Like, as in, I'm not there. But she had a cookery show yonks ago with Nana Cherry. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And there was this bit, and this is when I fell in love with Andy Oliver. I'm going to do these deep cuts. Is when she went, they saw Nigel Slater and they went... And they ran after him to tell him they love him. And then they were like, eat. And I was like, like that level of fandom of Nigel Slater, of toast.
Yes.
Because they chose to call his person back. I thought, I love Andy Oliver.
Yeah, no, she's great.
Yeah. So, I do think
she can come to your dream meal if you want. Do you want her in there?
Well, she did a lovely... what was the show she did on BBC where they went? I think she went to Morocco and went. You know, there's that this kind of hype that I was interested in that. Oh no! I don't think I'd like someone that I'd want to impress at a dinner. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'd be like, oh, I've got custard everywhere. I'll leave off. Do you know what I mean? Like,
sure, yeah. So maybe we could get you someone you don't want to impress or don't respect.
When you said don't want to impress, I was about to say my husband, and then you went in with don't respect. Yeah. Oh no, I always just want to be with him. Like I love a rare chance that we get to have a dinner together, and he is someone that really appreciates stuff. Like we said about loving food, I can't bear cynicism. I love people that appreciate things, and I love cooking for people that appreciate things. I'm like, oh my God, you know, like I love you going on a deep dive of what the cauliflower cheese is saying. Yeah. I like interested people. I like appreciative people. My husband is such a fun person to cook for and do anything for because he's a joy. Do you know what I mean?
And would he like this menu as much as you did?
Yeah, he would. He might go for a steak or something, but dessert. I mean, his mum, I love his mum. His mum is the most phenomenal baker you've ever known in your life. And she's very funny, Frances. And she says, anything she cooks, she goes, oh, it's easy. And that's my Northern Irish accent. And I say, you always neglect to mention the 50 years you've been doing it as part of the recipe.
Of course, yeah.
You know, it's just in her bones. So I love that sort of cooking where people have just got it in their bones.
How'd you meet this guy?
And I mean, this guy. Funny enough, I met him just before the apps. I met him on Guardian Soulmates.
Wow,
nice.
Going way back about 13 years, and he was so lovely. Yeah, and we just hit it off straight away. It was just easy work. He's just easy work, and he's lovely.
How did Guardian Soulmates work again?
Well, it used to be a proper Lonely Hearts in the I think it was in the guide, in the one of the insets in the thing. And then it just became, I don't know if it ever became an app, but it was just like an online website. And it was just like each other, then message each other and blah, blah, blah.
On the understanding that you both read The Guardian, so there won't be any political clashes on the first date.
I think there's a bit of that, but I think everything has its own flavour, doesn't it? Like Plenty of Fish is a hookup, or even back then, or like, you know, Grindr, Tinder, you know, I think but Guardian Soulmates for me, there was a phase in the sort of mid to, what we're saying, I reckon, when did I meet him? 2011, 2012, trying to think. But like, probably around 2009 to 2011, there wasn't a marriage that didn't happen because of Guardian Soulmates.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, when everyone's divorced now, but it was like, oh, I'm married. You know, it was like that when people got to their mid-30s and went, oh, fuck, I need to do this. So, I think it was for people that were a little bit more kind of like, I mean this sort of thing. But I did hate dating, and like I always say, I almost missed him because we just got along. So I'd be like still dating or talking to people, go, no, at least I can go and meet him. Do you know what I mean? So
it's funny anyway when you meet the right person and it's just like it's just easy.
It feels too easy.
And you're going, oh, what was I doing all the other
Yeah.
All those other people were really nice people. Why did I put them through that?
Yeah.
Why did I put them through all that palaver of trying to make it work?
But you don't know till you know, do you? You don't know that your person should feel like home, shouldn't they?
Just so telling of your personality. Why did I put them through all that? Meaning yourself. Why did I put them through me?
Yeah, all that is you.
all that.
All that stuff I do.
Come on,
the way I am.
Let's try and make our relationship work.
Yeah, but you do try, don't you?
Yeah.
You've still got to try.
You do. Well, but you don't know until you find your person, do you?
No.
And
I
it's
just drain the
actual
olive oil
peace
bottle.
and home, and then still looking forward to seeing them, sort of thing.
I'll read your menu back to you now, see how you feel about it.
Yes.
You would like the Berks of Aberfeldy Springwater.
Oh, yeah, that's...
Unlimited poppadoms of all the dips. Prawns in garlic butter with bread. Which we were calling what again?
Tunken. Main stage of the meal.
Whole soy roast chicken on rice for your main course. Side dish, morning glory in sesame oil with garlic. Drink, the most expensive bottle of red wine on the menu. And also a vodka martini with a twist to start as an aperitif.
Yes.
Dessert, steamed jam sponge with custard and ice cream, brackets both. And you would like an affogato with a little in there as well.
How's he written that? How's he written that?
He's not written it. I had to do it from memory.
Okay.
So I remember the sound. He's not written. He doesn't like us.
That's not... thank you for letting me have the affogato as well. That's
Of course.
It was both, wasn't it? It's all of them.
Yeah, that's a fantastic menu.
Is it?
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that. Yeah.
Well, I felt like, I didn't want to say it at the time because I didn't want to get in your head, but I really felt you connected with Laura.
We're on the same page.
On so many things.
We're on the same page.
More than you have. Most of the time, Ed doesn't approve of a lot of our guests and...
morons.
Thinks they're morons.
Yeah.
I didn't want to put it like that.
Davies one.
Yeah, he doesn't
a wild ride.
Yeah, he doesn't respect Greg.
Respect that guy.
I do. I want to do Taskmaster.
Yes.
Oh yeah, sorry. Laura really respects Greg.
Oh, that was spot on.
Yeah.
It was a delicious menu. Really respects Greg.
Nothing
And looks
was
forward
weird
to doing
at all.
Taskmaster.
Well, you don't need to do Taskmaster now because you've done the off-menu podcast.
Yes.
Is that how it works?
I don't know.
Tick tick goal. I'm done. I'm like done. I'm happy. Goals met. No other
That's nice.
worlds to be conquered.
That's nice. This is the only world people need to come.
Thank you for coming to the Dream Restaurant, Laura.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Laura.
Mr. Acaster.
There we are, James. A lovely episode with Laura Smyth.
Lovely meal. Lovely to hear so many stories about Laura's family.
She wasn't that eggy or aggy. I thought she was extremely fun and pleasant.
Yeah, she wasn't eggy. She wasn't aggy. She was Laura Smyth, a fantastic comic. You can go and see her live now with her show, Born Aggie.
LauraSmith.com for tickets. That's SMYTH because I gotta.
It's so fun to say because I got her after that. Ed, I hope you're doing well.
I'm right here.
Huh? Oh, sorry, man. I thought I was going to do like a little shout out to you.
James can't handle this being on video to the extent that he doesn't know if I'm here or in the camera.
I guess it's to your future you watching.
Yeah.
I assume at some point you're just going to be sat in your home, an old man, in your old smoking jacket,
watching this.
Yeah, just watching this.
Yeah,
watching all of your glory days, your salad days, and being like, and I'll say, I hope you're doing well, and you'll be like, thank you, James.
Thank you, James. And then I'll pat a jar, and it pans out, and your brain in a jar.
Oh, it's my brain in the jar.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be like an urn with my ashes in it.
No. It's the future, man.
Yeah, like Futurama.
Yeah.
Hello, Laura, as well, if you're listening.
Oh, hi, Laura. You didn't say eggy bread, so thanks for that.
Thanks for not saying eggy bread, although it would have been fun because Born Aggie and Eggy sound the same.
Yeah.
Have a great tour. It's going to be so funny. Say hi to all the off-menu fans for us.
Enjoy the event in Apollo. It's a big
Enjoy
gig.
the Apollo. Huge gig. I guess hello to Benito if you're listening.
Yeah.
Watching.
Oh, no. Then you see I've got another jar on the side, and it's Benito's Winky in a jar.
Yeah. That's the one big jar.
I'm on tour next year. That's 2027, depending on when you're watching this. My show, Fresh Hell, starts in January 2027. edgamble.co.uk for tickets.
Great. My tour's finished. Just everyone leave me alone, I guess.
Is that to us as well?
I wish.
Bye.